In this video, I'm going to talk about my ayahuasca experience at Soul Quest in Orlando, Florida. So I just completed my first ayahuasca experience at Soul Quest in Orlando, Florida, and it was absolutely incredible. Chances are that if you clicked on this video, then you're already familiar with ayahuasca. So I'm just going to briefly explain what it is. Ayahuasca is an Amazonian brew that contains the psychoactive compound DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, also known as the spirit molecule. Ayahuasca has been used for thousands of years in the Amazon and recently made a surge into Western mainstream culture. Now, DMT is illegal in the United States. However, can be used for religious purposes at certain facilities like Soul Quest. Soul Quest is actually considered a church, which is why you're able to go down there and have the full ayahuasca experience. Now, on this channel, I often discuss race and psychedelics because it's a unique experience for a Black man partaking in the psychedelic experience. The war on drugs has disproportionately affected Black and brown people, and our voices within the recent decriminalization pushes, scientific community, as well as being volunteers in clinical trials is currently minimal. Also, psychedelics are extremely stigmatized, everywhere, but in the Black culture, definitely stigmatized as being like weird or even just like only for white people, as a lot of my friends might say. But I do expect them to only grow in popularity, and I want my testament and information that I provide to help others who may be researching if, consuming a psychedelic is right for them. Another obstacle for African Americans in psychedelics is that we often wear a mask as a shield in navigating America. An intense vulnerability that psychedelics inherently can induce might be frightening. I will say, for my personal experience, the latter was certainly true. Going into the experience, I'm not or was not naturally comfortable just not having control of myself and being just completely out of it in public and, quite frankly, around strangers. I really struggled with this the first night of the ceremony. And this is kind of where I get into the actual Soul Quest experience. The team at Soul Quest is absolutely phenomenal. That in itself, aside from the ayahuasca experience, was just truly remarkable to see and witness. I've never been around a community or met individuals as kind-hearted, empathetic, and just willing to help or caretake. I'm not sure if this is because of how many times they've used ayahuasca themselves, but they just didn't feel like normal people. Like they were just like super loving energy, like all throughout that place, man. A couple folks I talked to that were there on the ceremony also, they described the same thing. They said like the staff literally felt like angels during your trip, which was pretty insane. Now, the folks that were helping you during your experience were actually volunteers. Like they weren't paid to be there. They're just folks down there helping you from the kindness of their heart, and you can literally feel it. It was people who had ayahuasca experiences themselves in the past and know how truly transformative it is. So they come down to Soul Quest to help others out who are going through the ayahuasca journey. The entire organization is just like a well-oiled machine, and the smallest of details of your experience are extremely well thought out. Everyone I spoke with felt absolutely safe and cared for during their experience. There were about 90 people there, and each of us felt like we had one-on-one assistance from the staff. Like they made you feel like you were the only person there. And set and setting are absolutely critical to a psychedelic experience and safety because you're trusting others with your mind. And, I just can't overstate enough that the team at Soul Quest just absolutely nailed this part and, making everyone just feel safe and comfortable and able to trust to experience their journey. Now, for my actual experience, the first day I arrived at the airport, a member of the staff picked a group of us up from the airport and drove us over to Soul Quest. Just from the conversations in the car with the other people in the group, you could immediately feel like a connection and that like this was something special. Once you arrive, you go through a medical evaluation. You're asked things like, if you're predisposed to any mental illnesses like schizophrenia, or if you're currently on any SSRIs. This is important because SSRIs do not mix well with psychedelic substances and can lead to fatal outcomes. This information is on Soul Quest website and critical to be aware of before partaking in this experience. They also, just go over, what you've been consuming. Like I said, and before you go down there, you're already 2 weeks into a diet of, no meat, low sugar, no sex, no caffeine or coffee. They say this is just to make sure that the body is just completely as pure as possible. The way I look at it is like, yo, these people in the Amazon know way more about this stuff than we do. So whatever it is that they recommend or suggest, I'm going to follow it and believe it. At least for the ayahuasca experience. So after the medical evaluation, there's an opening initial discussion where we each gave like a one word intention for the weekend. And the staff goes over like the rules and regulations also for the weekend. The rules and regulations are basic and very logical. Like, you're not permitted to just leave the facility and come back and then partake in a ceremony because, who knows what, you leave and go consume in your body. And, then now Soul Quest is liable for you. Now, also during this open discussion, you're given the location for where you will undergo your ayahuasca experience and the time that the ceremony begins, and also the time for like the other events like yoga, breath work, and the other different things that take place over the weekend. I actually stayed in one of the cabins at Soul Quest. So after that opening discussion, I kind of just went back to my cabin to just chill out a little bit, get mentally ready and prepare myself for what it is I signed up to do. The ceremony began around 8. I went back out to like the main gathering area around like 7. And before the ceremony began, a shaman comes in and blesses the medicine, and they start to, distribute it to everyone. I received my first dose. Then I went over to like my mat. We all have like mats within the location to where we do the ayahuasca. I was a bit, curious about the taste. And it wasn't, what I'll say is it wasn't, obviously it didn't taste like fruit punch. Like it wasn't delicious, but it also wasn't unbearable. If you could take a shot of whiskey, then you 100% can take a shot of ayahuasca. It was a thick substance. And to me, it tasted like a mixture of like molasses and dirt. Now, the experience is obviously different for everyone. One of the facilitators mentioned that a large man could consume a small dose and have like a crazy experience. And, a petite woman might need several different doses, in order to have a psychedelic or an ayahuasca experience. There's just really no way of telling. So it's just important to, listen to your own body and as you consume the medicine. And that's kind of what I did. Um, I heard stories of people talking about their first dose and like taking that first dose and nothing really happened. So I was wondering if this would happen to me. But I'd say about 45 minutes into the ceremony and after consuming that first dose, I started to feel the effects. My body started to just really feel numb, and I could feel like my mind just starting to open up, like mind open up. It just sounds like this whole thing, right? Is like on this channel, I try not to get too like like too like spiritual and like energy type, like because this stuff really sounds fictional, but it just kind of just is what it is. So I'm just explaining what happened. My mind opened up. People around me were just like purging or throwing up left and right. It was just such an odd experience just to see so many adults, like grown people, screaming and crying. It's certainly something that you just don't encounter in day-to-day life. Like there was even one guy who was just like shouting at the top of his lungs, "What the fuck? What the fuck is this?" Like it was crazy. It was almost like they were like walking zombies. The next day, I actually heard about like that guy's experience, like who was shouting, "What the fuck?" And they said like what he said was he had an experience where he felt like he was actually in heaven, which is pretty insane. And like how crazy as it sounded, like he was like screaming, like he was going through so much pain. He just was like, yo, I felt like I was in heaven. It was like, yo, what am I supposed to do with this information in my life going forward? Like, this is insane. Now, at this early stage, I didn't really have any major revelations or insights other than like my body feeling numb, and I could feel the music that was being played from the speakers on a very, very deep level. The music they play are called acaros. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that properly. That's like the music that's played in the Amazon when they undertake these ayahuasca experiences. So, like I said, it wasn't too much in the beginning. So I was definitely down to do a booster dose. I also didn't really have a sense of time. So, right. So, like, the staff mentioned that they would give the booster dose out 2 hours after your first dose. And by the time they announced it, I felt like I had just got the first dose like 20 minutes ago. Like, I had no sense of time. They rang like a gong announcing the booster dose, and a member of like the Soul Quest staff came over. I stood up on my feet. It was a little hard to walk, so like somebody came over and like helped walk me over to get my booster dose. And immediately, guys, after taking that booster dose, I could just feel my experience just intensify. There were like psychedelic like tapestries around the room that felt like they were just coming off the wall. At one point, one of the tapestries were like, it was like a woman, right? So it was like, I guess it was like a depiction of like Mother Nature. It was like this woman with like, I don't know, like her third eye was open and like just all these like animals around her. Like I said, I think it was like a depiction of Mother Nature. But like at one point in my trip, like she came off of the wall and she looked at me and she was like, "Yo, I got you, my nigga." Like, it sounds crazy. Now, I guess like when you go through like a psychedelic experience, that experience is unique for you. So again, mine, she came off the wall. She told me, "I got you, my nigga." I'm not sure if you're gonna hear the same thing, but that's what I heard. And I felt like a sense of peace. Like I felt like that was like the universe saying, like, "Yo, just trust this experience, trust this process. I have your back." Um, they say ayahuasca is like a feminine spirit, so you communicate with like a motherly being. So that's kind of how I interpreted that. As it felt like a divine being or God or source or whatever you want to call it, just telling me to trust. Um, and shortly after this, I finally began to purge. Now, again, it's time doesn't really exist. So it's hard for me to say how long after the booster dose, but I know it was right after the booster, right? Now, purging and throwing up, I will say, are 100% different things. By all definitions, you do throw up, but it didn't feel like throwing up at any other time in my life, man. Like I vomited, but it was different. Like you could feel like a buildup of like pressure in your body. Um, and I even heard like a voice in my head saying, like, "Yo, let it go, let it go." And, at that moment they said, "Let it go." I just began vomiting. I just began throwing up. They had like buckets beside her mat. So I was like throwing up in a bucket. And like as I was throwing up, that voice that was saying, "Let it go," started like clapping for me and saying, like, "Yo, that's right. Like, good job, good job." Like, this sounds crazy. This whole thing's going to sound crazy. Again, I like to stay like science and evidence based on this channel, but these experiences are, I mean, they sound supernatural. So it just is what it is. Now purging also, I mean, it was one of the best feelings that I've ever had before in my entire life. It felt incredible. It wasn't like throwing up, like any regular throwing up. Like it just felt great. Like I felt like I was releasing something that was like built up in me. Like I felt like I was releasing and releasing negativity. Like I guess that's why they call it purging, because you really feel like you're purging negativity, any type of like burdens that your body might be carrying that you're not even like aware of, right? So like um I purged, and then like I immediately just felt like lightness in my body that I had never felt before. Like I said, like something might have been trapped in me. I had no idea. I just felt light, felt like I released a burden, and had a thought that I was like releasing any type of hate that was in my heart. So now I could love. Like that was just the thought that came to me, which is very, very, very strange. I still feel that a few days here afterwards. Like I still feel like this opening of my heart and like this love. Ever since that purging experience, you feel like open. I feel like open to other people's and able to like send and receive love. Like it's just like a body experience. Like there were like barriers or gates around my heart. And I just had an incredible sense of peace, complete peace afterwards. This sense of peace, like I said, it lasted this day, but like for the rest of the night, I just felt that. I felt that. And I also felt like, I had like a revelation, like, oh, like when you get angry with someone or you feel like a grudge or hold a grudge with others, you really only hurt yourself, man. Like you hold on to that and it stays trapped in you, even if you're not conscious of it. And, there's really no point in like holding grudges or being angry with people because you don't hurt that person. You hurt yourself. And that was kind of like what I felt after I purged like whatever was in my heart. And I just felt like, yo, I only want to give and show love to people because um, anger or anything else is just not worth it. Now, the ceremony started around 8 p.m. And by the time I'd come back to, it was around 5 a.m. There was also a daytime ceremony that began around 8 a.m., but there was no way I was going to make it. Ayahuasca isn't just a drug experience, guys. It's like really hard work. It's taxing on both your mind and your body. It's just really like, it left me like feeling completely exhausted. There were actually like a lot of people who did the first night ceremony and didn't feel as though they could handle a second night at all. I knew I was going to do the second night because, it's what I signed up for and what I came down to do. However, that daytime ceremony of 8 a.m., right after I'm literally coming back down from my last experience, that wasn't going to happen. So I spent the next day relaxing and sleeping in my cabin for a majority of the day until around 5 p.m. They did serve food. The food was delicious, all vegetarian food. So we had like soup. We had some pasta, but it was really good. Around 5 p.m. is when we began integration sessions. Now, the integration sessions were just like everyone getting back together, talking about their experience, sharing what they went through. That part was really, really reaffirming because what you found is like a lot of people felt like we all were having like the same thing. Like, again, that Soul Quest staff was just so dope and so helpful. So we all like, yo, we cannot believe how crazy, like helpful these human beings are. Like, where'd they find these people? This is incredible. So we all kind of felt that. We also felt like you didn't want to be like a burden to others, right? Because when you're in like this vulnerable state, like you need help walking, you need help like you're throwing up in a bucket. People are like replacing your bucket, pouring you water. So you kind of felt like a burden for others, and you didn't. That feeling of just not having control of yourself isn't really comfortable. A lot of the guys actually had that experience, including myself. Man, it was like vulnerability is not something that in society we're used to feeling or experiencing. So that definitely was a challenge and something we shared during these integration sessions. Now, let's fast forward to the nighttime ceremony. I was ready at this point. I was prepared to completely relax and let go. I'm an overthinker and I struggle with that a bit the first night. So I just told myself today, I was like, yo, there's no point in trying to make sense or think about the experience as it's happening, right? It's something that's completely irrational and not just something your intellect can process. So like I plan to just like let go. It's not rational. Just go with it. Whatever happens, happens. And at this point, I completely also trusted the Soul Quest staff and team and knew this was an environment I'd be comfortable with, completely letting go in. They let us know that the body doesn't develop a tolerance for ayahuasca, and however much you consume the night prior, it won't impact you today in today's ceremony. So I plan, still even with that information, I still plan to do kind of the same thing, which was like one dose initially. And then by the time they give the booster, I'm going to do just another one. I thought that was like right for me. Now, this time though, however, I took that first dose and I kind of just sat for about 2 hours and I felt pretty much normal. I didn't really have too much of an experience as I did from the first dose this time. And I think personally, I think it's because I ate, I ate something as opposed to the first day when I pretty much just fasted the whole day. This time I ate before. So like I didn't feel anything for about like 2 hours. And then, they bang the gong again and announce the second dosing or booster. So you're able to request as much as you want for your second dose. I requested instead of one, I requested 1.25 of a dose. That just like came to my mind like, yo, that's going to be right for you. Now, almost instantaneously after consuming the second dose, the effects started to come on. And again, I just kept telling myself, let go, whatever happens, happens. Just trust it, let go. And with that letting go, The second ceremony, the second night was absolutely incredible. It was stunning. Unlike the first night, I had crazy visuals, insane colors, and I just had a sense that I was connected to something that was bigger than myself. Now, whether you want to call it again God or source or whatever, it was something, some type of like energy that was just like, letting me know that it was like in control of everything. It was where everything comes from, and it just felt like a pure energy. And I felt like I was like racing through like all these lights and like all this energy through like a maze, like through some type of maze. I felt like I was just racing through. And then once I got to like the end of this maze of light and energy, and I got like to like a final point, that felt like the end of the maze. And soon as I like got to this end point, I just started like purging my mind out. Like I just started vomiting crazy. Like it was just crazy how like your internal mental experience corresponds with like when and how you purge, right? So similar to the night before, the purging experience, I just felt like it was like removing things from me that didn't serve me. I felt light. I felt as if like I had arrived somewhere. I just felt great after purging. And like I said, getting to like the end of this mental maze, like whatever it was. And then like I just like lay down like on my side for a little bit. And I just felt like this powerful energy around me while I was like laying down on my side, right? And then I had this realization, like while laying on my side, like I said, all this energy felt like it was around me. I had just gone through this maze, and I had like this realization or like this thought. I was like, "Yo, holy fuck, I'm in a womb right now." Like I'm reliving my birth. Like I felt enclosed and on the verge of something. And then I like suddenly broke through the womb and felt like I was being like born again. Like again, man, it sounds so crazy. It's irrational. I hate on this channel sounding like, like just like a new age wow person, but like, man, like I said, this stuff just is what it is. It's insane. I broke through the womb and I felt like I was like just born again. And I just had like this overwhelming sense of gratitude. I was immensely grateful for being chosen by the universe to become a human being. And I felt like it was just like a privilege to be human. And the way I kind of processed that was like, all right, so like when I was going through like light, like maybe I was in like an afterlife or something, and then that maze, like the end of the maze was like me like ending up in the womb and about to be born into the world. And that's what happened. Like I really felt like I was like born, like I was reliving my birth. It sounds insane. But like the feeling it gave me was just gratitude. Like I just felt immensely grateful, like I had been chosen by the universe to become a human being. And it felt like it was just like a privilege to be human. Like I was grateful I had two hands, I had fingers. I was grateful just to like be alive. And like I have this human body or this human life, and I gotta just like make the most of it because like I'm fortunate to be alive. I thought about all the experiences in my life, like the good and the bad, and I was like just grateful for everything because I have the opportunity to be human. So like I'm grateful for whatever human life is. Like I said, that comes with the good and the bad. I'm grateful for to be a human being. I'm grateful to have a family. I'm grateful to have friends. Like I don't need anything else. Like the joy of being able to be human was enough, and like it was like deeply satisfying, like truly remarkable. Just had this thought like, yo, I'm alive. Like I'm fucking alive. Like it's a miracle. Like I can't believe this privilege. It was certainly like the craziest experience that I've ever had in my life. And the feeling of like immense gratitude is just like still with me. Sometimes, like I said, it's been about 2 days. Um, you know, every time I just think about it all, think about it nonstop since I've had it, man. I just like still feel like this gratitude. So like by the end of the ceremony, I went back into my cabin, still feeling grateful, still feeling like, the sense of awe, the sense of bliss and gratitude. Woke up in the morning feeling even better, which was insane because I was no longer on the medicine, but like I just felt even better. And again, I still feel completely at peace. And, like I said, I still continue to get the peace just from remembering the thought of like this ayahuasca experience, the thought of like being like born and how privileged it is to be born. So like that was like my main takeaway from the experience. Like it was really dope. Um Now, after the second night, we all returned back to the place where we initially had our open ceremony. The facilitators gave us like some really extremely valuable advice for returning back to the real world. They told us it may be difficult to share the experience with family and friends because it's so alien and irrational that it's virtually impossible for anyone to understand if they haven't had the experience themselves. And that's how I feel even like doing this YouTube channel. Like I sound like I'm babbling and I've lost my mind, but like if you've had the ayahuasca experience, you kind of get what I'm talking about and get this experience. They also told us that the medicine stays in your system for about 2 weeks, and certain dots from your experience will begin to connect as more time progresses. Which I can say it's only been about 2 days, but I still feel certain dots, connecting. Even as doing this video, I've got more clarity on my experiences, and the things continue to be revealed to me. They also mentioned to us all that like, hey, you guys, your hearts are now open, which is certainly true. And it's like a weird physical sensation of your heart being open that like I said, you can physically feel it. Like I feel like my heart open per se. I feel light, and I just feel like lighter, feel able to love and be more empathetic to others. Also carry with me the love that the Soul Quest staff provided during the ceremonies, like how the staff treated us. Like I have like a sense of urgency to make others feel that same type of love of being cared for that I felt during my ayahuasca experience. Soul Quest team, they also told us as we return to the airport, we have to protect our newly open hearts in the love that we feel. Don't always, can't always expect it to be reciprocated out in the real world, right? Which is like just the fact of life. Um, and they told us like, soon as you go into the airport, you might be like a deer in headlights, which I certainly felt like that. They reminded us, hey guys, you're not going to have control over your circumstances or your situations, but that love that you feel inside, you can always change your perspectives, and you can always just continue to give other people loving energy, even if you're not getting it back yourself. you know and I definitely needed this when I left the facility, because when I got to the airport, my flight was actually delayed multiple times for like 5 hours, and then they ultimately canceled my flight, and I had to stay overnight in Orlando at a hotel. But like it was crazy because I didn't even really feel pissed or angry like I normally would. I was just still in like that state of bliss of like just being grateful and just feeling grateful to be alive. I'm like, oh, missing, having a flight canceled, that's part of the human experience. Like it's a joy to be a human being. Like that was like now my baseline in life. Like my baseline is now I'm just happy to and grateful that like I'm able to be a human. I'm able to have this life. Um, so yeah, man, that's about it. Those are my main takeaways, that joy and that gratitude that I felt. And also like this newfound sense of opening of my heart, like which is kind of like weird. uh Not weird, I guess it's like, I guess we call that growth, right? We call that growth. But like I said, just got back like 2 days ago, so still processing the experience. It was definitely a lot. I tried to give as much detail and information in this video as possible. If you or a loved one is interested in an ayahuasca experience, for me and my personal experience, it was 100% worth it. Truly, truly a life-changing experience. And I ultimately just feel lighter and more at peace with life. I definitely plan on going back to Soul Quest in a few months for another experience. And I think it's going to be even better than this first one because I know exactly what to expect, feel safe, and I kind of, I get more and more comfortable with letting go and just trusting. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found something helpful from my experience. And as always, I suggest you continue to do your own research and due diligence before participating in a psychedelic experience. This is Nick of the Arter Project, signing off with my ayahuasca experience. Peace.